So recently a colleague of mine came up to me and said, Eldon, I know you like retro stuff, retro computers, retro gaming. So here's a laptop. This is a Dell C600, which is in a fairly good condition. There's almost no scratches and it looks fairly new. It is a Pentium 3 laptop and dating from 2001. So I'm going to refurbish and upgrade this machine.
So I took the challenge to make something out of this machine, with the intention to, as always, make it a gaming era worthy laptop. First off, before I start, I check if this thing can even power on, not making that mistake again. And it does. It goes into the BIOS, and that's all I need to know for now. Inside the machine you'll find a standard set of 2 times of 265GB of memory banks, totaling 512GB of RAM. There's a Wi-Fi card, which is a plus, but not something I'm actually going to use with this machine. I was going to opt and replace that BIOS battery, but it seems to hold its charge perfectly, even to this day. Plus, these batteries seem to be scarce and expensive. The great thing about this laptop, however, is that it's modular. The C600 is a business laptop, and back in the days, these were powerhouses that needed quick maintenance from the IT department. You can eject the battery with a simple flip on the bottom and pull it out. Pulling out the hard drive is an easy task. Remove the screw and you can slide out its 60GB of PATA hard drive. I am going to replace this PATA drive with an mSATA SSD drive with a PATA extension and bay to refresh and speed up this machine. Coming back to that battery, after 20 years it's fresh out of juice. This laptop only works when it's plugged into a wall socket. Take the power cord out and the machine shuts off immediately, so we need to replace the dead battery as well. As you can see, it boots into Windows XP just fine. However, running through the BIOS, it's clear that the BIOS is very limited. You can minimally change settings, and due to this BIOS being too minimal, I might run into some problems installing a fresh OS. So let's start. Let's make the outside of this laptop shine. With pure vinegar, I cleanse the outside of the laptop to remove any dirt and stains that have been left behind. I remove both the optical drive and battery for easy cleaning access. In order to get up close for cleaning, I remove all necessary screws. The great thing is that the screw inserts are labeled on the bottom, meaning K are the keyboard screws. Now I wanted to remove the keyboard, but after looking at it close, underneath I see that this machine is squeaky clean. So I stopped at that notice and left it alone. I grabbed my air pressure can and sprayed as much dirt, if there was any, away just to be sure. These bays might contain dirt as well, so I used the same tactic. Time to put this thing together and move on to the next step, which is installing newer hardware. I put the optical drive in place, and the first improvement, the new battery. I close up the lid before moving to the next part. A vast improvement is this mSATA SSD over that older PATA hard drive. I have done this before in an older compact laptop. I'll leave a link above, and it's pretty easy. I place this SSD into this mSATA PCB, bolt it down, and close the case with the screws it came with. And now it looks like a standard 2.5-inch hard drive. I take the PATA hard drive adapter and place it on the new hard drive. I also need to place this outer shell case onto the new hard drive. Most important part of all is picking out that worn out track point and placing in a new one. You can't track the track if you can't track. What does that mean? I have no idea. We're done with the exteriors and the upgrades. Let's work our way into the inside. It turns on without the need for a wall socket, so that's great. Running through the BIOS, and I don't see an option to boot a CD or a USB drive. This machine gives you the option when booting up to press the F12 key, and this brings up a quick boot menu with a selection for the internal drive or the optical drive. I went for the cheeky road and want to install Windows 98 Special Edition. Weirdly, the user interface is limited to this small and boxed screen. I think this is just a GPU driver issue. So here's Windows 98, which is still in low resolution, boxed size. There's no option to set it to a higher resolution, meaning it's missing its correct GPU drivers. It also doesn't recognize the laptop's USB ports. So I had to burn all the drivers that I found to a blank CD recordable, meaning I had to install each driver by hand. Sadly, most drivers that I found weren't the correct ones, and after a few hours of hunting down the correct drivers, burning them for the many time, I gave up. Windows XP had to take over the wheel, seeing that XP has most drivers for this laptop in-house. But then the real shit show started. Oh boy. I booted up the Windows XP OS CD, but hung on certain files. It would either be the driver.cap file or the speech.chm files. This was weird, as Windows 98 would just install fine. After browsing ancient Dell forums, some users stated that the 128GB hard drive was an overkill for this laptop, as it could only handle hard drives below the volume of 60GB. So I went and bought a 60GB mSATA SSD drive to replace that 120GB one. Everything seemed to go smoothly, but then speech.chm again. It kept freezing at that specific file. Something else was wrong. I tried about 3 different Windows XP OS CDs, but all gave the same problem. Upon closer inspection, it seemed that the optical drive was a bit wonky. It wouldn't close properly at some occasions. This was a mechanical problem for sure, but as long as I could keep the drive closed, it would read. That's what I thought. Looking for a replacement drive wasn't easy and would set me back at least $200 US, which was ridiculous. These drives were so-called refurbished and a new one was non-existent. There was one last thing I could try, or else the game was over. I opened up the optical drive and ejected it from the laptop. Since I couldn't read 1 or 2 specific files, I reckon that the lens and or its connections were dirty. The trusty air pressure cannon and swabbing it with alcohol should do the trick. I removed a lot of dirt, so I was hopeful that this was the absolute answer. I also placed back the 128GB hard drive, since that wasn't the issue. And thank God it was. It booted up the OS CD flawless and installed Windows XP without hesitation. All the peripherals were recognized, as well as the 128GB hard drive. Time to place in those express cards, which were installed the same instant. Now the only thing remains, what should be the purpose of this machine? Of course, its sole purpose should be to run Roller Coaster Tycoon. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button. A subscribe would be appreciated as well, as it also keeps you informed whenever a new video is released. I want to thank you for watching this ridiculous journey again, and I'll see you on a next video.